Alina, this book is something else. She's saying, she's saying that the things that, that stand out to you, the things that you want to repeat and all of these things into your life. Listen, everything
stands out.
So I break it down into portions that I can manage.
This really was transformative.
Good evening, achievers, and welcome to this evening's discussion. Now, for those of you who have been following on Series 6, you know that Launchpad Consultancy, collaborating with Vision Work Solutions, we're bringing to you the Series 6. And in this series, entrepreneurs and professionals are reading the book, The Uncommon Achiever, as written by Mike Murdock. My name is Alina Lewis. I'm an author, business coach, and education consultant. And joining me this evening is Sherlyn Mitchell of Just Towels International. Sherlyn, good evening.
Good evening to you, Alina, and to all those who are viewing us as well. Good evening.
Yes. Now, I'm excited to get into chapter 10 because chapter 10 talks about setting goals and updating them continuously. So as I always ask, I do want to ask you, was there a big takeaway from this for you, Sherlyn?
Yes. One of the 6 points that he listed to the closing of the chapter, one in particular said, never make permanent decisions because of temporary feelings. And it took me back to some years ago when I was traveling in what I would call my limo, that's the PTSC bus service. And all of a sudden I was just approaching Piaco Junction and I heard, do not make permanent decisions on temporary situations. So when I saw this particular nugget, I said, this is so, so true. Because many times in life, you are in a particular season and you feel, yes, this is what I have to be doing. And you're ready to make some concrete decisions. And when you check it out, it's not what God was saying at all. That was just for that timing. And sometimes we can really miss God when we make permanent decisions with the feeling and the good feeling, have a good feeling in this, or even enter into a long-standing business relationship, and it was just because of a temporary feeling. So that in particular stood out to me. And you know what too, Alina, I was encouraged to that it's okay to list your goals. And it could change. It could change as you grow older, as you step into another season. Your goals could change, and it's nothing wrong with that. It's not like it's carved in stone. Okay, it mustn't change. You have to stick to this. And even though you feel like this is not I'm not excited about this anymore, and you don't want to change it. So I love the fact that you can update. And again, when the author started off at the beginning of the chapter, he spoke about a particular percentage of persons who followed the instruction of the professor to write down the vision. I have seen in my own life that in writing down things, I don't know, sometimes it stays in your mind for a while, but when you write it down and you begin to read it back to yourself and you keep reading it all over and over and over, literally, things begin to come together. Things begin to, it's like you have a magnet on you and things begin to draw. You begin to attract those things that you have written down. They just fall into place. But it's so important to write down the vision. And when you write down the vision, you have a sense of direction. So, that's a lot, right? That's a mouthful there. But that's how much I have taken away from this particular chapter. I am encouraged. I'm happy. I've never approached writing down goals like how I approached it today, taking that hour off and making a list of my goals, the lifetime goals, the 30-day goals, and then doing the plan for the daily success, the daily success routine. So I am excited, and I hope you're getting excited, those of you who are viewing us, getting excited about your goals. Your goals is your goals, and you don't have to share it with anybody, because they may not believe. So those are some of the takeaways for me, Alina.
I love that. I want to really unpack with you. So my approach for our convo this evening, Shirley, is that I really want to just be able to pull out some things that really stood out, because I think it could be of not just value to us, but value to those who are reading, to really make it a conversation point. And even those who didn't read, but maybe just listening to the conversation, could really benefit from it. And Mike Murdock, when he started the chapter, he started with the one sentence, and that's his thing. He always starts off with a very short sentence that is on point. And he started by saying, decide what you really want. And when I read that, immediately I remembered Simone, because Simone Nickham, she is one of the impact coaches that join on the conversation from time to time. And she really, she has a passion for talking about being decisive. And when I saw this, immediately I remembered Simone. I said, listen, how many days now Simone has been harping on this when she says, as she quotes Mike Murdock so many times, decide what you really want, because you'll never leave where you are until you decide where you would rather be. And I thought that's such a deep statement to make. You'll never reach where you want to be until you leave where you are. Or rather, as Mike Murdock put it, you will never leave where you are till you decide where you rather be. And my question that I want to ask you, Shirley, what was that process for you? Because I'm sure that at what time or another you would have had that experience where you had to decide that you're going to leave where you were, whether it was a physical space, whether it was an emotional state of being, whether it was a mental, a mindset that you had. What was that? Can you think of any one instance where you had to decide to leave where you are so that you could get to where you want to be, so you could experience the things you want to experience?
Yes, I recall here in 2021, so that was back in 2013. Again, I was traveling on my limo, and I heard the Lord say to me, arise, take your possessions and leave. And at that time, I was 17 years working in the airline industry. So I knew that this was not a if or maybe. When I hear, I don't know about, some people say you don't hear, God don't speak to us anymore. But I knew that I heard the voice of God, something loud within my spirit. And I knew there and then, I came home, I had to tell my husband, this is what I was going to do. It really was not much of a discussion, because I had said to the director at that particular time, then when the company had made a switch, they had outserviced some of their aspects of the operations. And I had told the director I would only give this company 2 years. And I stayed 7 years. So I was 5 years over the time. And in that time, I found myself more involved in what I had to be doing for God. So I found that I was robbing even the company of what was required as a steward within a business space. So even that and all was sending certain signals to me. I was on the phone a lot more than usual. A lot of things was happening with me. So when that instruction came, I heard that in November, and by the 31st of December that year, 2013, I had already submitted my resignation letter. And I did not look back. And I said to myself, Shirley, One of the things God said to me in January of the following year, 2014, He said, I, God who call you, will sustain you. And I rested in that. And it was not an easy transition because of being independent. Now you have to actually go after what you want to be able to earn and be able to accomplish. But you know something, I was not doing it by myself. So for me, that was a decision that I had to make. I did not linger on it. I did not even take in too much opinions. In fact, one person said, I don't agree with that. But I had to obey God. And this is 2021, how much? 7 going into 8 years now. And I have no regret whatsoever. The only thing is that I continue to press on. And I'm so glad for all that I was able to learn then, so that I can apply it in my life now and go further and be able to speak from a place of, and it's a scary thing when you're taking risks, but if you don't, you will end up stuck in a place. And what was happening then with me was part of what I had written down. So that point, that the way how God did it, I didn't have much of a say in how it was going to happen, but it happened. And it was needed, it was necessary in order for me to go to the next level. I'm learning, I'm still bouncing my feet, but I'm learning and I'm in a different place. And I encourage people out there, don't be afraid to make the necessary transitions from being an employee to being one that employs. But of course, there is that planning that is very, very important. But I was planning for some years before. So I was 5 years into something that I should have done when it was 2 years up. So that was it for me in terms of that aspect, Alina.
I really appreciate you for sharing that, because I remember when I decided to go into business, I didn't have a clear voice of God come to me and say, you shall arise and go. What I did have is a deep dissatisfaction with where I was and what I was doing. And in the eyes of the people around me, life was great. And technically, life was great. I had my qualifications, I had the job, I had the title, my income was on point, I could go where I wanted, I was taking vacations, life was wonderful. But there was this deep sense of dissatisfaction that this is not it. There is something on the inside of me that I wanted to do. I didn't know what it was, but I wanted to do, I needed to be a part of. There's a level of expression, there's a level of authenticity of self. I wanted to be able to live in every day. And every day that I went to work, I couldn't live in it. My workspaces did not allow me, and I would transition from one portfolio to another because I was searching for something and I couldn't find it. And I remember going as far as working for a faith-based institute, and it still wasn't any better. And I got, life happened, and I got to a point where I realized this is just not it. I'm not going to do this anymore. And even applications that I had out at the time, Shirley, when I got calls, I started turning down the interviews. I made a decision because I'm like, no, this is not working. There is something on the inside of me that I need to pull out and work out and do. And I'm gonna go do that. Because as great as life was, I wasn't able to live in the way that I sensed on the inside I should be living in all of the different areas of my life. And so I really appreciate you sharing that story, because a lot of times when people step out, whether you step out based on passion, whether you step out based on faith, whatever is your motivation for stepping out and transitioning, it's usually not easy. For many, they linger on stepping out because they're waiting for the circumstance to be perfect. They're waiting to have the perfect amount of money saved up and the perfect amount of equipment already bought and the perfect amount and the perfect launch. A lot of times there is that greatness, that passion, that skill on the inside that should be released that never gets released because we're too afraid to step out into it. So I really appreciate you sharing that while you had great conviction, you still were nervous, you still were all those things, but because you believed in what you were doing and you believed it was the right thing and you knew in your heart that that's what you need to do, you pursued it. And I am by no means telling people be reckless about how you make your life decisions, but I am saying and encouraging people to keep in mind that there comes a point that you just had to go do it. You just have to know that here's what there is this conviction, and I believe this is how I need to operate, or this is the area in life I need to function. And you put the necessary support systems in place, you get the plan, and you make it happen. So I really appreciate you sharing that bit about your experience in walking out and transitioning from one space into another. And even as Mike Murdock continued with the chapter, he said that, when you decide exactly what you want, the how to do it will emerge. And I think that complements the story you told as well, Sherlyn, because you had an understanding of what you wanted and the how this going to work itself unfolded as you went along. And I could share with you that the same was true for me, that I didn't know all the details. Listen, even the things that I do now, if somebody told me back in 2009, I would be like, no way. But it's because I said yes. I said yes to the passion. I said yes to the call. I said yes to the conviction. And the same applies to you. And as you continue in the journey, you continue to discover what is on the inside. You look at your surroundings. Yeah, you discover what the possibilities are. And when, as Mike Murdock shared with us, when you decide what, was it what, the how, it comes. And as he continued, he started talking about the importance of the goal planning. And in that, he talked about starting off with the lifetime dreams and goals, then breaking it down to your 12-month goals, your 30-day goals, and then, of course, your ideal success daily routine. Now, you mentioned earlier, Sherlyn, that you did it today. Is it that today was the first day you really sat down to do it, or is it a process you've been through before?
I have been through it before. However, in reading the chapter, I realized that I could encapsulate all areas of my life, not just business goals, but all areas. And so I took on I did it with a different eye today, because I do have, am I going too much ahead?
No, you go right on ahead.
I do have something that I repeat daily, twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. In fact, I literally, listen, this is no joke. This is not just words on a book. It really works. Like how they sell something, a vitamin, and they tell you, yes, this really works. I am saying this, I have proven it, whereby, and that's the next thing to Alina. Don't go ahead of yourself, Sherlyn. Take it easy. Calm down. What I'm thinking is that when you write this thing down and you begin to read this thing back and say this thing aloud to yourself, it shifts things in order. Even your thinking is adjusted. The things that you choose to do begins to line up, because when God said to me, Sherlyn, go and do this course, go and do that course, that it all lined up so that it was all to help to effect what the assignment was. And what I realized in it is that if you don't write it down, where are you going? What you're really doing? What is it? Do you have a clear direction? I mean, and literally, I saw things come together for me. And not only that, Alina, some people want a quick fix, but your goals is not a quick fix because you want to go deep. You want this building to be able to stand up against the storms, against the rigors, against this pandemic. So you want your beams, your pillars to go deep. So allow the time for your goals to develop you and to develop as you go through your goals and achieving your goals. That is one of the things I have learned as well. So even though I'm saying this daily, everything didn't happen like that. There was a process, and the process required me to say it every day because I needed to believe it. I needed to be convinced, totally sold out to it, so that if any wavering, because that's the next thing, you don't want to be all over the place. You want to be clear about what you're doing. And when you have said this thing and rehearsed it and memorized it, it is fixed in you. But you see that process, the time frame, I believe we need to give ourselves that time to get the pillars down in the ground deep so that we are not easily shaken.
Yeah. And even as you say that, I want to share something. There is a webinar I had collaborated with Infinity Creations earlier this year. It was called Cassie Vision Webinar. We did it at the beginning of the year. And as you talked about writing goals, I wanted to share that during the webinar, we would have identified core areas, because I know sometimes people look at and they listen to what you're saying, but it may not connect in a very practical way. So I just wanted to support what you were saying by showing you one of the clips from that webinar. And what the clips showed us is, let me just pull it here for us, 1 second. What the clip showed us is that core areas that we could support include family, spiritual elements, and so on. So Shirley, I'm so sorry, but just give me one moment and I'm going to get that clip, because I think I really want to bring it to light and share. Here we go. And we're saying the core areas that people could look at for those who may be wondering, well, how do I do this? When you're planning, you can plan for your business and career, your relationships, your finances, your personal growth, your spiritual growth. And of course, even as we see in the slide here, God is at the center. So God is not separate. God doesn't have to be separate, because God is in your business and your career. God is in your relationship. God is in your finances. God is a part of your personal growth. And of course, he's a part of your spiritual growth. And I really wanted to share that clip for people who may be looking on and thinking, well, how do I incorporate planning? What are the general areas of life? And of course, this is not any perfected list, but it's a really nice starting ground for people who really never stepped into planning and so on, but they desire to be able to take this advice that Mike Murdock is giving and be able to say, I want to incorporate this, that these are some really core areas that focus can be given. I want to ask you though, Shirley, even as you consider your path in planning, what has that experience been like for you in terms of your ability has it boosted your ability to achieve? Has it clarified for you? And in an everyday experiential viewpoint, what has that planning process, that long-term planning process done for you?
I'll give you an example again. And this is so up my alley, boy. God. I really trust that those who are viewing are being ministered to and receiving these nuggets as well. I looked at Just Towels, my individual business. This business, the business plan was done under candlelight back in 2006. May 31st is when I launched it, right? Now, when I launched that business, my plan was to make extra money. However, God had another plan, and it was unfolding as I went along with his plan as well. So that in doing towel shows across the country, God began to open up areas of doing the magazine publication, something I'd never done before. But I had to begin planning for it. And the amazing thing about this is that I said to the people when I began to have meetings, I said, listen, I don't know anything about doing this, but God said to do it, so we're going to explore, and we did it. And so it went on. But the planning proved itself, because even though Just Towels was there, other things were being birthed, including Tema International, which is the non-profit organization that needs that support financially in order to maintain it. And so whatever was coming into Just Towels was going into Tema. And as a result of that, because of the poor management of funds, Just Towels suffered. But Just Towels remained silent in the background. They're pushing Tema forward as the baby. And, going back to the plan now, Alina, I was able to rewrite, okay, I want to make a certain amount of money, and I had to be clear about that. I had to know how much money I want to make. And in doing that, I had to list how are the ways I'm going to make this money. And one of them was getting Just Towels back up and running. Mind you, that was 2019 when I began to revisit. I explored areas where I can access funding as well to be able to get it back up and going. So that was a plan that was written on, rewritten, and watered with prayer, constant prayer, lifting it before God. I'm sorry, but this is who I am, right? Well, I don't have to make apologies for who I am, but I'm just saying to you, this is what works for me. And I literally laid this on the altar. And like how you drew up that diagram there, where God is the center, and I gave it back to God. I said, God, you gave this to me. I gave it back to God. And literally, from 2019 to 2021, I saw it come to pass. God brought it back alive again, in the sense of having the product, having this product available to customers. And it was a dream that has not died. And it's as a result of the planning. So I see the planning as an effective tool, writing down. And you don't rely on your memory, because I'm telling you, the way thoughts flow. If I miss sometimes, if I don't write. So make a note, note.
I would encourage persons as well to keep in mind, Shirley, that even beyond thinking about it from the position of memory, that one of the things we could be mindful of is that when we do that level of planning, we're able to hold ourselves accountable as well. I remember about 3 years ago, I revamped my planning and so on. And in the process of revamping my planning, one of the things that I would have done is I would have taken time to I just identify the path, what it is I'm doing, where I want to go, and so on. And so even in identifying the plan, and I really want to encourage people to think about this, that there's a space of comfort that you could get from planning. Because for me, if I were to use that as my process as an example, what then would have happened is that I would have been able to identify the milestones, identify the benchmarks and so on that I would need to follow to hold myself accountable. So I knew that in 1 year, this is what I want to accomplish. By the end of year 2, this is what I want. By the end of year 3 and so on. And so even when COVID hit and going through that process of pivoting during COVID, what it allowed me to do is to be encouraged and have the confidence that I'm on the right path. Because instead of being shaken by the circumstances that came with COVID, I could check the 10-year plan that I revised 3 years ago and realize that in spite of COVID, I'm still on track. So even from now, I know that in 2 years, in 3 years, there are certain things I want to do. So I know that, okay, this is how I need to have my finances in order. This is how I need to get my family life in order. This is how I need to, this is the depth of relationship I need with God to support this level here. And all of it, it comes from the inside. I'm not saying it's just, I'm not looking on the outside at what other people are doing and trying to mimic them. But as I dig on the inside and I discover the reservoir of what is inside of me, it then allows me to understand what is the path that I'm going to follow and how can this unfold. And when we take time to do that planning process, not just the daily or what I'm doing this week or what I'm doing tomorrow, but we understand the long-term implications of who we are and what we are doing on the earth, it changes how we're able to function. And I have found it stands as a great point of encouragement. So while COVID has made for a lot of disruptions, I have been able to stay comforted during COVID because I have the viewpoint of this 10-year plan. And so I know that in spite of the disruption of COVID, I am still on par with the path that I'm on and the things that I am supposed to be achieving and getting done. So I just really wanted to mention that to people to take courage to know it. Yes, it's great for memory. It's great to clarify your thoughts, but it's also great because it lets you know what you need to do to position yourself. Do you need certain skills? Do you need a mentor? Do you need a coach? Do you need to change your network in terms of the people that you spend time with and so on? What is it that you need to make sure that by the time this date comes, you are ready to get in? Yeah. So Shirley, even as we consider all of the tips that Mike Murdock gave for supporting dreams and goals, I want to really invite you to share your closing thoughts with us as to what is your takeaway and what you're going to be embracing in the days and months to come.
Mhm. I was reading back this one in particular. Avoid intimate relationship with those who do not really respect your dreams. And I was asking God today, God, how do you manage that when there are persons that are close to you that already are familiar with your dream, but you really wish they could be out of your dreams? So I was asking God that part of it. But I'm comforted to know that He has allowed a community of business owners to be able to give that kind of support and that kind of encouragement that you were speaking about, so that you're not left alone in this big ocean wondering what will be the next outcome of this whole pandemic and the change in our economies around the globe. So that for me, selecting the right relationships as I go forward to be able to take me into this next level of division is very, very important for me. And I see this, as you were speaking just now, Alina, I see this as one of the areas that God has allowed to be able to bring some developments, to be able to bring some advancements for me. Just making this connection with this book and with this whole book club conversation. I mean, literally, can I scream to the people, you need to connect with this. This is something that if you are unique, you feel that what you have been given is like nobody's understanding it. I am saying God has prepared this platform. God has prepared this particular assignment, which this young lady here is carrying. And I am saying to you all out there, connect. Get how can I get access to this book? How can I get to the support that I need to move forward? I am saying to you, this is the place to be, this is the space to be. And this is not no gimmick, this is real. I mean, she's saying what she has been through and how it has settled her, how you could look at your plans now and see where you're going because you have a 10-year plan. And it's okay. It's okay to plan and put the plan, commit the plan to God, and God will bring it to pass. And I believe this is what is happening because she committed the plans to God. God is bringing them to pass, and He is causing her to understand how to do it. And so I have connected, and I'm trusting, I'm encouraging you out there to connect with this. It's made easy for us, right in your space, and it's your language. So for me, the right relationships, and I'm building on that, the right relationship as I go forward, because I know that I need the right support in people, because we need people. And I know that for sure. So I want to say thank you again for this opportunity and for this space, so that we can encourage each other and become the uncommon achiever that God has destined us to be. Thank you so much.
Shailen, thank you for sharing that. Definitely. You did a great job at closing off here this evening. So I really want to encourage people, keep on viewing, keep on tuning in, keep on reading the book. We appreciate those who join us live every night. And we want to encourage you, feel free to share the live even after it's done. The link remains open for you. And be sure to follow Vision Work Solutions on Facebook, as it shares the what we call the BCC wisdom nuggets, where you get a little clip. So it's not a full 30 and 50-minute program, but you get those 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute nuggets that really can transform how you see things and how you're able to progress in becoming that uncommon achiever. So God bless. Take care, everyone. And until tomorrow, keep on striving. And remember, write those goals.